drowning in the water, but you came and pulled me up so I could breathe.
Welcome to Rescued for Women Revisited, where we revisit the stories women have shared of how their messes were turned into messages of hope.
All you did was forgive me.
Welcome back to Rescued Revisited. We are so glad you joined us, and I know that I say that every single time we start a video, but we truly are glad that you're here. We hope that you will find a nugget, something that will inspire you, encourage you, and bring you hope no matter what situation you are currently facing. Megan and I, we've been through a lot the past month, haven't we?
A whole lot.
It's been a whirlwind for sure. And so I think we want to take a minute to just revisit a little bit about what's been going on in our lives. Talk a little bit, we will, about, maybe I sounded like, what was that Yoda there? Talk a little bit about we will.
I love you.
So let's talk a little about the two stories that we've just come off of hearing, because we had Mary on and her story was incredible, and then we also had Bree. Her story was amazing.
Yes.
I know that there are viewers out there that watched both of those stories, and I'm certain that you were touched by them.
Touched,
like
totally relatable.
Yes.
On completely different aspects.
Yes.
Of the spectrum. 100%.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that Rescued is all about, I don't know, women sharing their stories so that you don't feel alone. I mean, that's part of the biggest reason that we're doing this. And then the other thing is that we want to empower you, right? We want to empower you to know that there is hope through Christ. And that's part of my t-shirt here, right? Megan, my niece Megan, gave me this for Easter, and it says empowered women empower women, and I hope that we're doing that for you for sure. So Megan, tell me real quick what's been going on in your life since we last talked about you, because you had just filed papers.
Yes, that was very fresh.
Yes, very fresh, very new. And of course you on that episode, I think God was really holding you up. You were doing great. Have you had your moments since then?
Absolutely. Since then, in the midst of all of that yuck, I had lost my grandfather to a horrible accident. I had stayed 5 weeks in the house that we had lived in with my little girl. And it was, I think some people were looking at me like I was crazy for why would you surround yourself with that still, even though you made a decision. But I think we come back very often to the hindsight of God's plan, that I stayed the course moving forward mentally. It was almost like I put my God blinders on, and I wasn't really sure where I was going, but I knew forward was the only option. I had prayed every single day for a sign. Not that I was making the right decision, because no one ever wants to decide to end your marriage.
Right.
I mean,
no, sure.
But it was one of those, like, every day I got a sign.
Yeah.
Every single day. So you ask, and he shall deliver. Whether it was a good sign, a bad sign, or an ugly sign, I got one.
Just a sign that you were on the right course.
Yes.
And that you weren't making the wrong choice.
A hasty decision just because I couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't fix it. And it was okay that I couldn't fix it. And for the first time in 6 years, I had peace with the fact that it wasn't something I could fix.
Right.
But Callie and I had since moved out, and we have our own place.
Yeah.
I still struggle. I struggle every day for different reasons than I did weeks ago.
Well, and let's talk about that a little, because even though you made the choice and you feel like God gave you signs and kind of confirmed in your heart that this marriage coming to an end was something that needed to happen.
Absolutely.
That's still a loss.
It's a loss.
So this whole month for both of us has been all about loss. Interestingly enough, I mean, we're coming off of this episode where Bree talked about loss, a totally different type of loss. But how has God held you up? I mean, loss of your grandfather, loss of your marriage, loss of your home, right?
So
moved out.
In reality, I lost everything, but I gained everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I will break that down a little bit, where I, for the first time, didn't have to be strong for all the wrong reasons. and I felt strong for the right reasons because I had prayed about it.
Yeah.
16 months ago, so our divorce will be finalized in May. And last May was when I had my moment on your front porch.
Right.
So and Mary, when we were discussing, God had a plan, you just weren't, you can't see the end goal, the end result. He had a plan, and he was strong enough to carry me through. So now in hindsight, when I look back, everything, even in my yuckiest point during all of this, since that day I filed, it's all made sense. And even just today, I woke up this morning and a situation had arose in this yucky situation of this divorce where I had to pray on my hands and knees to talk me off the ledge of making a choice that wouldn't have benefited my life or where I was headed.
Yeah.
And it was a moment that only having God as my center could save me from, because it mind over matter,
So what you're telling me is you had to be rescued again.
I did. I had
From
to be
yourself.
rescued again from myself.
Yeah.
Not necessarily from yuck, but from myself.
Right.
And it was, I'm not going to go into details, but a yucky text message that got me off my steadfast of my direction that I'm walking with Jesus, and it literally threw my whole morning off course until I was rescued from myself, because it would have ended very differently.
But you couldn't have been rescued had you not surrendered.
100%.
Because God's always throwing the lifeline.
100%.
But you have a part in that too. God's there. He's ready to rescue you. He's ready to take, your hand and pull you up. But we have to reach up and grab his hand too.
We just talked about the analogy of if you jump in a lake and you're drowning, we don't swim to the bottom, we swim to the top.
Right.
I, for the first time, swam to the top and said, I need help. Help me.
Right.
And that is the only way. And it is, so many people, but is it that easy? It's not that easy. Even, I think Bree touched on that. It is that easy.
It is.
To have that moment of, I want to be strong for the right reasons.
Right.
These last couple weeks, I have literally unzipped the heartstrings and it all came out, and I had to work through each piece of that puzzle, but I didn't have to do it alone.
Right.
Before I was doing it alone because I was kind of choosing to, because I wasn't throwing my hand up saying I need help.
You weren't throwing your hand up. That's the bottom line. Is I think we oftentimes, when people think it's hard because they're not actually just reaching up to God, He's there,
He's waiting,
but they're not
it's
saying
your part. You have to
here it is.
Yeah.
I think I'm reminded of Easter, right? The resurrection. I threw that out on Facebook last night about the importance of Easter and how that is like the single most important holiday, I think, for believers, because Jesus went to the cross so that we didn't have to, took on everything on his shoulders, right? Paid for it all.
Think of the power behind that.
Oh my goodness.
But I do think some people don't look at Easter like that. It's not about getting together for meals, and it's not about putting on your pretty dress that match your shoes.
Right.
It's really that foundation of the sacrifice of doing that for us.
Well, see, you nailed it, because you said think of the power. So let's talk about the power. The same power that rose Jesus from the dead, and when he rose, it proved to everyone that he was God. Okay, if he had never risen again, he would just be another dead idol, another dead God, right? But no, he rose from the dead with hundreds of eyewitnesses that saw it. So history proves it. The Bible isn't the only thing that proves it. It is a proven fact. He rose from the dead. That same power he gave to you and me the day that we accepted him.
Yes.
And the Holy Spirit took up residency inside of you. So when we say it's that easy because the power of God is in us.
My girlfriend Bassin said to me, everything you're searching for, I'll never forget, I was sitting at the house where we used to reside together. I think I just got off the phone with you. And I put the baby to sleep. Brandon was gone. I was by myself and I was floundering. And I knew I needed to make a major decision. And she said to me, every insecurity, every every choice that you haven't made correctly, all of it, like everything, the love, the this, the that, everything is inside of you. God has given he's already instilled all of what you're searching for inside of you. Let him kind of develop that.
Right.
You know, be okay with
Yeah.
jumping on that. You know, like say, okay, you know what, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And it was like at that moment, you're right. Like he's given me all of that. Like
He's given, and when we think he hasn't, we downplay what he did on Calvary.
it's
We
it's
downplay
wild.
that he literally died the most brutal death
Mm.
a person can die, and for what? For us to say it's not enough.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm.
you know, that's the sad part.
It
that
is
we
sad.
actually, you know, we actually do that. And see, I think what it comes down to is, and you and I talked about this earlier, belief is just the beginning.
Totally.
That's where people get hung up. But I believe in God, and I'm not having that same experience.
Mhm.
It's because belief, even the devil believes, the Bible says that.
Mhm.
So belief is just the beginning, but it's that daily surrender,
It is.
that daily giving it over, that dying to yourself and
Mhm.
saying, I can't do this, it's on you.
Mhm.
And when you begin to make that a habit, the hope, the daily hope that you
Mhm.
feel will keep coming, and
Well, it's
it'll
huge.
keep coming.
It's so fulfilling every day of this journey. And I almost love looking back now because I don't pack all that in a bag and carry it on my shoulder anymore.
Mm,
And I did that. It almost makes me get emotional just to think how
Mhm.
far I've come
yeah,
because I don't carry it anymore
you leave it.
because I don't have to.
Right.
Do you like, and that feeling, it's not all butterflies and cupcakes just because I have Jesus now. Do you
Mm-mm.
like,
No, the
it's
pain
still-
whack in the face again. Well, let's talk about that a little, okay? Just kind of thinking of my journey this
Mhm.
past. Wow, like losing my mom. Whew, that was hard, and you know, my relationship with my mother wasn't. You know, I shared the story of how I was raised. So somebody, you know, I think I was blindsided by how hard it was.
Mhm.
Because for the past 6 years, my mom's been very ill, and our relationship has kind of been from a distance. You know,
Mhm.
she didn't live local,
Mhm.
and my mother-in-law, I was really, really close with her.
Mhm.
So we lost her 5 months ago. So
Mm.
we've had a lot of loss this
Yeah.
year, and I thought it would be harder almost to lose my mother-in-law. Almost thought that.
We
Be-
talked about that.
You know,
I
yeah, just
remember.
because we were every day talking.
She was that
and
physical,
she was-
tangible
yes.
relationship.
But losing my mom was probably one of the
Because it's
hardest.
your mom.
It's your mom.
You get one.
You-
Dude, like,
yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we talked. It was hard to watch you go through that
Right.
because I see you and I aspire to be a mother that you are to your, you know, watching you with your children.
That's sweet.
No, but it's true. So I can't. It was hard to watch because it's not something like I can't take that pain away.
No.
You know.
Yeah. Well, and that loss, I mean, it was painful. Just because I have God and I know where my mom was headed. I know that my
Yeah.
mother went off into eternity and she saw the face of Jesus for the first time ever. And
But it still hurt.
her pain was gone.
Yep.
But the loss that I
Yes.
felt, it was still
Mhm.
very real.
Mhm.
But you know, the hope that I felt,
Mhm.
knowing that I will see my mom again one day, and the hope that we can feel even in the middle of our pain, because we have this ability that others don't have
Mhm.
to take the hurt, the pain, the challenge, and walk it to the foot of the cross and say, God, I don't want this burden. Please
Mhm.
take it. And guess what? He just takes it.
And he does, because I was talking earlier to somebody. I think we all get held up as women, as strong women, of trying to understand. Like, you can't, with so many people be like, well, how are you not angry? How are you not, you know, the pain? How do you not succumb to the pain? I don't need to try to understand if I do give it to God, because that's on him. You know, like, it's almost like, well, if you get closure or if you get an answer to something, it doesn't take that away.
Yeah.
It helps you navigate through, but like
Yeah.
giving that emotion
Right.
over to God, help cleanse me of that pain.
Yeah.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You just can't.
You can't. And some people, actually, our next story
Mhm.
is Jen Johnson. She'll be sharing about her blended family
Mhm.
situation that was really challenging and tough, and she'll share a little bit about how she came to know God. But I think in her story, this is the interesting thing. She knew God, but didn't automatically give it over to him, right? Like, so that there's that scenario too. Like, we can sometimes, even when we know God, hold on to it, and we almost miss out on the hope that he can bring. And sometimes he has to remove the situation before we can see clearly that we should have gone to him first.
It's wild. My mom just said that today.
Yeah.
She said to me, because my mom and Julie and my best friend Jackie are my go-tos. It's like when one doesn't pick up the phone, I have this list of commands, but then I'm like, you know what? Like, I did it once I prayed about it. That's the only way it got better this morning.
Yeah.
But my mom said, do you feel, and this is the first time because we've been through it within this marriage of 6 years. She said, do you think that you had to go through everything that you did since the day you filed to get where you are today? And if it does, it like takes your breath away. If I did not have God, I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I couldn't. I didn't before, and I was still stuck. You know, but I had to go through all of it. So I think Julie and I are trying to express to you guys that just because you have Jesus as your center, still having pain, like, it's not him not there.
Right.
You know, like, I think we think that so many times. Where are you? Where are, you know, why am I going through this? It's not cupcakes, butterflies, and roses every day. The
pain may still be there, but there's this sense of hope because you don't have to do it on your own.
No, but he rescued me again today.
Right.
And I think...
And well, let's talk about if he doesn't. I think we touched on this last week. You and I were talking, and I said, I thank God. Actually, we went around the table tonight. And because Marissa, who's 6, she always, every once in a while, will say, can we say what we're thankful for? So at the dinner table, we'll go around saying the one thing we're thankful for that day. And today, mine was what we talked about last week. I thank God that he didn't move my mountains. I thank God that, you know, however many years ago, was it 17, 18 years ago, God saw fit not to move my mountain. I had prayed and prayed and prayed that God would help my first husband get better. And God didn't answer that prayer with a yes. He said no. He did not heal him.
And you had a great relationship with him at that point in your life.
And so here's the thing. Why am I thankful that he said no? Because if he had said yes, I wouldn't have my husband and my 6 children that we have together and my stepson.
I can't fathom.
I probably wouldn't know you.
I was going to say we wouldn't have each other.
No.
I mean, it's wild that plan.
Yes.
Oh, here we go again. Tonight, this is like, it like takes your breath away, because it's not a plan that we have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I think as women, we also need to let that go.
Yeah.
Let go of some of that control.
Right.
Let go, because your mountains got you where the climbing.
Right.
The downward, the upward, all of it.
So if God's not moving your mountain right now, if you think that like you want something so bad and God is not, he's not moving it, don't feel hopeless. Feel hope knowing that it could possibly be that he has something so much bigger and better for you. Because I think about, I can't fathom my life without our 8 children. And yet the crazy part is, and most of you don't know this part of my story, unlike other people and unlike Brianna's story, which is our last story, a lot of my pregnancies were failed birth control. Like, God had some very serious plan for our life.
They were supposed to be here.
We were supposed to have this big family. And when we got married, we were both one and done. So God not only didn't move my mountain, but then he chose to give me this life that I never would have asked for or thought I wanted.
No, it's wild, but it's not our plan.
It's not.
And being rescued every day, it's not a failure. Do I think, oh well, you know, is my life is at peace for the first time in 37 years. And I made a commitment. Even there was a Sunday, you know, Julie and I check in with each other about going to church. Church is a building. I do think, I strongly want people to understand that too. Yeah. It is a building. Yeah. I choose to go there. It is almost like my fresh start, and not just because it takes away all my sins for the week. It is truly a place where I feel connected. and I can zone in. And it almost helps give me clarity for all the things that happened in that week. And I can say, I'm starting to see the other side of my yucky situation, and I would do it all over again to get me where I am right now.
Yeah.
And I would.
Let's talk a little bit about church being a building, because the church is actually the body of believers. It's any Christian anywhere creates that body of believers. But there are church buildings all over the place.
But it can be anywhere.
And
I do believe, like,
yes.
if you have a room full of believers,
that can be your church. So there could be church. Yeah, we've had church right in this.
We have.
Right?
It was
With
amazing.
a group of people.
So
church, but here's, I think, what my point is. The church could be anywhere, but we go to church oftentimes. Some people go to church thinking that they're going to get filled and fixed. But the reality is if you come into church there to give it all,
you have
to lay it down, to surrender it, and to worship the God of the universe. When you flip it and you're not going for what you can get, but going for what you can give.
I love that.
Right?
That is so huge, because I think so many people struggle with that.
Well, I didn't get anything out of it. Well, you're not going to the movies.
No.
Right?
You're going to find a happy ending, or
Right.
yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we already know how that one ends, or this movie, or this.
I mean, we study the Word of God and we're taught the Word of God there, and sure, you can get something to help you live this Christian life, but that's not what you're there for.
It's not about what you get.
It's not. It's supposed to be worship. It's supposed to be giving yourself to God.
Oh, I love that.
You know,
I do love that, because it is. It's that act of surrendering.
Yeah.
And truly, I mean, true surrendering. It's not pretty.
Right.
Like, it's not. It can get messy.
Yeah.
But it is explaining, so many things that I've gone through in my past to get me here.
Yeah.
They're different than yourself. Because I think when you're in that situation, the whys, so many people, oh, I know you're not supposed to ask God why, or why this, or why, it is taking that finger, pointing it back at yourself, and being accountable for making a decision. We all make choices every day, but having a relationship with God is a decision. And it is, like, how they say, well, relationship takes work, and it takes commitment, takes effort. Right. So does your walk with Jesus. Like, it's...
Yeah. It's not, we were talking about this earlier about, that you, oh goodness, I wrote it down, and what's required on our part, right? Because
it doesn't just happen.
No.
Like, you don't just wake up, oh, no, I did it.
Yeah, you have to give something. And one of the ways you can tell if you're in church for the wrong reasons, like, you're kind of like, if you go to church,
I want to hear this. I'm like, I haven't heard this one yet. So
if you go to church with another person, your spouse, whoever, and you sit in the service, and the entire time you're listening to the service, you're thinking of how they should, you want to nudge them, you're probably there for the wrong reasons, right? Because you're hearing all the ways that they need to be fixed.
Okay, so I can touch on that a second.
Okay.
So Brandon was not on the same spiritual journey as I was, because it's his journey, not my journey. And I thought it needed to be our journey. So I remember when I come to church. And he came, and I did that whole time. When we left, well, did you hear the pastor say this? Well, don't you think you need to fix that? And don't you need to do... It was, I did not give myself that self-reflection, point that finger back. What can you give and receive from this new journey? Yeah. It was focusing on his journey and what I was going to get him to do.
Right.
And at that point, it still had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And now it has everything to do with me and what I lay down and what I receive.
Yeah.
Because I chose to lay it down. When I leave church, that literally I could do church every day. Yeah. But it is my jump start for my continual daily rescuing. Right. Because I know I have the steps in place. She's taught me how to put on that armor the right way. Not just throw it all on and hope it fits. Yeah. I put it on.
We're gonna do a Bible study.
I like that.
I want that's something that's in the works. And I really want to do a Bible study on the book of Ephesians, and then we're going to invite our audience to
That would be great.
to join it.
I love
We'll
Ephesians.
record it, and we'll get the
That would be.
anyway.
We'll get there.
Just putting a plug in for that, because the armor is in the book of Ephesians.
But it comes back to the foundation, and we talked about that. Like, you can't build a house without the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So how fair is it to ask God? Well, no, we just want the end result. We just want the good part.
Mm,
It doesn't work that way.
right.
Because I think so many people, when my life is still messy, I'm still a wreck. I cry every day, or this or that. I'm not saying I do, because I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't either. But
Yeah.
do you miss your mom?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think people think that pain. Well, it
it doesn't.
doesn't go away,
Mm-mm.
but you learn how to walk in that
Right.
and not walk with it
Yeah.
per se. 'Cause-
Right. Not carry it.
Mhm.
Not carry it as a burden.
Yes,
But to live
yes, you're living through it.
through. Yeah.
It is a wild thing, and I think that is our common denominator with Mary, Bree, rolling into Jen, your story, my story. We are all different, and I think that's what we want people to understand.
Mm-hmm.
We come from different walks of life, but at the end of the day, that common denominator is still the same.
Yeah.
If you don't have that foundation, how do you expect to build a house?
100%. And the more your surrender to Jesus becomes a habit,
Mhm.
the more hope filled you will feel every
Mhm.
single day.
Through the yucky stuff.
Right. Through the yuck.
It is
Yeah.
wild.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, your situation, we're talking a lot about loss.
Mm-hmm.
One thing in my loss that was challenging was family dynamics. So you could have a really lousy family dynamic,
Mhm.
and that could be the hard thing that you're walking through,
Mhm.
and yet God can get you through it if you're surrendering it to Him. And that will kind of be where we'll land with Jen's
Sure.
stories.
Yep.
A really yucky family dynamic,
Mhm.
and in the middle of it, I don't think Jen was really looking to give it over to God.
Mhm.
And she had to sort of have the situation removed before she could
See it clear.
see it clear. But you'll hear in her story, and we're gonna not say much
Yeah.
more about it. We're excited to have her share, because
Mhm.
Jen is one of those people that's kind of an introvert, and she came to me,
Mhm.
reached out to me privately because she wanted to share her story. Because at the end of the day, she knows that without Jesus and without total surrender to Him, she would be a wreck right
Mm.
now. And so when we launch her story in a week or so, I want you to be ready to listen.
Yeah,
I
stay
think you're going to
tuned.
get something out of that one.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
in the meantime, keep your eyes peeled and posted for the giveaway, because
Yep,
we're going to do our first
Our
giveaway.
first one.
We'll probably announce that this week.
Yep, sure.
And tell you how you can be a part of that. And
Qualify and pick a winner.
yep. And if there's anything that you would like to hear us talk about further, let us know.
Reach out.
Reach
Feedback.
out.
Give
If you
us
have a
feedback.
story.
If you have a story, a journey, your walk, we want to hear it. And all of them.
Absolutely.
Bring it on.
Yep. I think that's good.
Sounds
So,
good.
We will see you the next time. Thank you for joining us on Rescued Revisited.
I was drowning in the water, but you came and pulled me up so I could breathe. I was hurting with all my problems, and all you did was forgive me. 'Cause I